obviously I'm a part of the SHIPIT Nation community. I enjoy the Discord. I get a lot of information out of the Discord, and then I use the site, so all the Slate plans, Slate info, all that, the DVP stuff. I would say join a site because they do help and you get all the information and it saves you so much time.
What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the main slate. Week 3 on deck here. Got my guy Title with me, as usual. We got a special guest today. Our man Scarface in here, filling in for Hoopster. So, it was already noticed in the chat. Our guy Newen's got it. We got a different vibe today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Some West Coast boys with the East Coast boy. It is Sin Day, Win Day. If you're just joining us for the first time, hit the like on the way in. Subscribe to the channel. We just hit 8,000 subscribers, so we will be giving away a $299 football-only with Shiptimizer membership on this very show. So get your comments out there, get your like button hit, subscribe to the channel. Title, going to bring you in, man. We're getting rolling. We got a good slate ahead of us here. I'm excited for this one. Man, we got a really good slate, I think. The first 2 weeks, a little more chalky. Not that today isn't chalky, some mispricing, but yeah, I think it's more spread out. The tight end position's pretty open. QBs. Do you want to spend up? Do you want to pay down like it's been working and jam in studs? I think there's a lot of ways to go. And always enjoy these shows talking to you and really excited to talk some with the man Scarface down here. You don't know him. He's usually above you in the leaderboard. So I'm excited to pick his brain. That's all I'm excited for. This is a great tournament slate. We got one of the best tournament players in the world on with us. Scarface, bring you in, my man. First time doing a show, long time, but we made it. We finally got here, and I'm excited to be on with you. What's going on, man?
I got some big shoes to fill over here. I'm like Jordan Mason stepping in for CMC. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I always wanted to be on the show. This is a fun slate. We were talking about it earlier. It's a slate. I mean, there's no clear-cut way to go on the slate. You can kind of get as creative as you want. You can go with who you like. You can build around some of the chalk plays and stuff we're going to talk about later. But I like the slate. You can get unique. You can kind of go the direction you want to go. Yeah, I'm going to pop it up here real quick just for everybody so they see how we're going to do business today. But first off, thank you guys so much. Anybody who's watching, you're a part of this. The nation is growing. We really appreciate it. I know there was over-unders on like 5,000 subscribers if we would ever get there, already at 8,000. So thanks to all of you out there that have done so. If you haven't, I know some people sort of think they've subscribed already. This is something that really helps us. Just make sure when you're on the screen, mobile or desktop, whatever you're on, just hit the subscribe button to the channel and make sure that's done so that you're part of it. You'll always get the notifications. If you want to turn them off, you can, but at least you're subscribed. It does help us out. Like this video, we'll keep an eye on it. And real quick, no major marketing. The promos are on the site. If you want to get it on the community, you heard our guy Dalton off the top. He won another 100K. I think it was last week. So just to note, get into the community, go to shipitnation.com. But what you can do is just subscribe to the channel. That's how you get in the draw for the $299 giveaway. Title, kick it to you. Just your first thoughts on this slate. Grand scheme overview. Scarface just talked about it a little. There's a lot that you can do on this slate, and they did separate the games. So we got 5 in the afternoon on this one, so there's some late swap conversation as well. Yeah, I love the 5 afternoon games. The late swap, the afternoon slate, if you're getting dusted in the main slate, it's a lot better to pick from 5 games than 3, especially when it's Bo Nix and whoever the heck they were playing last week. Don't worry. Yeah, I see ya. Broad slate overview. Injuries, the running back position. I mean, Jordan Mason, like, what are you doing, DraftKings? FanDuel a little better at 8.3, 6.2K, though, in a very good spot. Going to be hard to get away. But when you say that, the running back room in general, there's no Kenneth Walker again. So Charbonnet is going to get all the work in a better matchup again this week. You have no Joe Mixon, and it sounds like it might even be next week as well. So Cam Akers, 4K min price on FanDuel. I mean, never do you get a min price starting running back who really is just competing with Dare Ngumawale, and he's really just a pass-catching back on third down. So
we will get there and talk about that. Obviously, they have an explosive passing game, so there is setups it fails. Easier to get away on DK, 4.7K, 4K on FanDuel. A chain looks really good. Kamara looks really, really good as well, coming off the absolute monster game. So you're going to need to get running back right. There's no doubt about that. And there's a plethora of receivers that I think a lot of people are going to go 3 running backs today. A lot of people ask that question. Always on FanDuel. DK, I think 3 running back will be heavy. There is enough receivers, though. If you do want to go the 4 receivers, there's upside out there that I think that some big 30-plus scores will be scored today at receiver.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about that when we get to the game by game. But just want to let everybody know before I bring Scarface back in, we are going to go game by game. We are going to run it off the stone. But like we said last week, we can't keep popping that thing up. It's one of the best tools in DFS. You want to check it out. It's on the site. But if you don't have access to it and want to see it today, got to get to 500 likes. So if we get to 500 likes, we'll join the stone from wherever we land. There's 5 really good games in the afternoon. 5 games at least. There's some of them are really good, but we'll get to those. If you hit the 500 likes, as soon as we hit it, we'll pop up the stone. In the meantime, going to run it back. Scarface, you got any other thoughts you want to bring in just on this slate as a whole, just in general, before we get to the first game?
I think Title nailed it. It's what you do with these chalk running backs that we're going to talk about. Mason, Akers, Charbonnet. How do you treat them on different sites? How you treat Akers on FanDuel? How you treat them on DraftKings? I think you start your lineups kind of deciding what you're going to do with those guys, and then you kind of just take it from there.
Yeah, did you have any thoughts on the 3 running back situation? Just because I know a lot of people in our Discord were asking, you're seeing all the questions out there about just DFS in general, because this year the passing touchdowns are down so much to start the season. The cover 2 up top with the 2 safeties high, all that stuff. Do you have any just thoughts on that, or do you sort of just let it run? I mean, we've got a top tournament player on here right now. How are you doing this, Scarface? Give us a little secret sauce.
Well, usually on FanDuel, I like the 3 running back build. I mean, with the kind of the value that's opening up with Akers and stuff, I don't think you need to go there. He's going to open up value for you to pay up for one of these receivers. On DraftKings, I think the 3 running back kind of works more on DraftKings. Just kind of the way things are priced out. I don't necessarily think you need to go there, but yeah, I mean, you can. I don't think it's necessary on this slate.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Title, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that, or cash games. The chat was talking about how cash is so easy now. It's just a 2v2, 4v4. Like, people just figure it's between 3 to 4 picks or 2 to 4 picks. What's your take on that for this week as a whole?
Unfortunately, I think that's just how 2024 cash games is nowadays. It's not the good old time where you get 5v5s. So yes, but you do have to still make decisions that, like, running back so loaded. Do you want it to be a chain or Kamara up top? Do you want to just jam in the Mason, the Charbonnet, and Cam Akers and then spend up elsewhere? Like, it's I wouldn't say it's as easy probably as week 1 or 2. I mean, week 1 or 2 is literally just 1v1s, 2v2s. I think there's a little more decisions just because if you go Kamara instead of Charbonnet, let's say, well, your whole lineup construction is going to look a little different. So, but I mean, the player pool is really, really tight. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I brought up a bunch of names. Even saw Hoops Burner in here this morning, but lots of good people. And shout out to my guy, The Realist. I'll come back to this later, but, just reached out to me, showed up. Love that. That's what it's all about. So Realist, actually, I'll do it right now. Reach out to me, info@shipitnation.com. Give you a free month to the nation. Just hit me up. Just screenshot your account or send me a DM on Twitter, whatever it is, X, you want to call it. Just hit me up. I appreciate you following through on your word. And I told you, got to get to the process. You can't just ask all the questions and hope for the free answers. You got to dig in, got to dial in. So shout out to you being here first thing in the morning. I saw our man Jake the Take, our boy Marley's down here, Black Mass Media, just tons of good people in the chat as always. But without further ado, a couple more double mark action down here, takedown in the building. This is the best chat in all of DFS. We appreciate all of you. I mean, there's too many to name that constantly coming back here. Hit some of these off the top. So appreciate everyone. That's what makes this happen. Let's get to it. We're going to start with the Giants, Browns. And this one starts off because the original thing title to start the week was above our stack rankings. We had to get an update. Watson, Amari Cooper, and Elijah Moore were atop the board. And the funny thing is, Cooper and Moore both have double O's in their names. So that could be bad. Zeros, or you could just flip them to like money bags, even though they have an S on them. They're kind of round. So what are you thinking about this Brown side? And then get us over to Malik Neighbors and anybody on the Giants side that you have interest in.
Man, what a gross game. I don't know. Does Dimes get his S back? Does he get his S back after last week?
Kenny Stones, you know why Hoop didn't show up? Because I told him case? And what happened? He at least showed up on the Millie winner. Obviously, you needed, Kyler was the optimal, but Danny Jones showed up on the $20 Millie Maker winner last week. Danny Stones.
Yeah, I mean, man, who's worse, Deshaun Watson or Danny Dime is the question. Deshaun has looked so bad. This isn't a game I really want much of. Amari Cooper, though, I will say, really good price at 6.1K. Target share has been great. Not much competition out there. There's no David Njoku. So when Watson looks away, usually it is Amari Cooper, and we've seen him have monster games before. So he's going to go pretty overlooked. Again, a lot of people playing 3 running backs. There's only 3 spots for receivers. Plenty of mispricings there as well. So Amari goes out there and gets you a 7 for 102. He will be happy at low ownership. By far my favorite play in that game. Outside of that, I don't even mind like Giants D. We don't talk about defenses too much here, but Deshaun, we know, can make a lot of mistakes. Outside of that, it's, again, get 500 likes so you guys can see the stone pulled up here, but it's a lot of orange. And if you watch the first 2 weeks, orange usually not great.
Yeah, Scarface, I'll go to you on this quick. The chat already talked about the Browns defense here going up against Daniel Jones. The stuff I saw some people talking about on FanDuel especially was with Deontay Foreman. He's cheaper. He's even cheaper on DraftKings too. He's $1,400 less than Ford if you believe in any of that side of it. But I think the Amari Cooper thing is the most interesting because realistically, if he has a big game, he typically will drag Deshaun along with him. And there's going to be multiple scenarios. We talk about that today. But even if you had like a secondary stack, I think it would be okay to have like a Neighbors Cooper, a Neighbors Elijah Moore. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of like Neighbors. He saw like what, 65% target share last week. I mean, that's pretty insane. I don't know if he's going to see the same this week, but I mean, with that kind of target share, like you can definitely go to Neighbors. I don't think they priced them up too much. On the other side, yeah, I get the Deshaun love. I get the Deshaun Watson love. I get, wanting to stack him. I don't think Giants defense is that bad. I mean, they didn't give up a touchdown last week. They didn't give up a touchdown and they still lost. That was the funniest thing ever. But if you want to go to the Deshaun stacks, I mean, I don't know if I would double stack him. We just haven't seen much out of them yet. I don't think this Giants defense is that bad either. But yeah, Amari Cooper, I think he's playable. Elijah Moore, he's somebody you can go to for value. I like the call on the Giants defense. Deshaun Watson, of course, he's susceptible to making a ton of errors. So he could turn the ball over. They can get like a scoop and score or something like that. But for the most part, I don't like much in this game.
Yeah,
that's weird to see. Sorry, Ford plus 140 to score and Foreman plus 145. So not that I'm really interested. I kind of like Jerome Ford a little bit. I know Deontay Foreman is cheaper, and I know Deontay Foreman got most of the rush attempts last week, but it was Jerome Ford who had the longer runs. He's got more big play capability than Deontay Foreman. And if I'm going to move off some of these running backs that we're going to talk about that are like in much better spots than these guys, I want the guy with the big play. So Jerome Ford is the guy that I would go to instead of Deontay Foreman. Yeah,
I don't hate that, especially if you want to pair it up with the D. The other thing interesting about the Giants D is $200 more than the very popular Buccaneers, which we'll get to here later. But $3K, I think a lot of people like the Bucs. So if you want to have a little bit of a different defense in there, and again, if Deshaun shows up, it's probably going to be with someone like Cooper who just drags him along. We'll talk more about that as we go throughout. But let's go to the next game here. Another defense that's 3,200 actually is the Colts. We're not going to spend all day on defense, but just thought it was interesting here because it looks like Jonathan Taylor is pretty much going untouched. This is one of the best O-lines in football versus one of the worst D-lines, and they're at home in Indy. Like, I don't know. I just think there's some tournament action here. So, Scarface, I'm going to stay with you on this one, but thoughts on the Colts, Bears? Caleb Williams obviously looked very bad to start the season, but they've got some injury stuff there, so maybe Moore or Rome or some of those guys could pop up. But talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb, the problem with him is they're just not protecting him. He's a rookie quarterback that's not getting any protection. Going up against this Colts defense, I mean, his breakout game is going to come at some point. I mean, we can see him kind of have some success in this game. DJ Moore, I don't mind him, especially on FanDuel, 6,500. I think he's going to be owned. I got interest in Roma Dunze, 4,200 on DraftKings. I think he's a nice value play right there. Keenan Allen's still out, so I mean they could be looking his way a little bit. This is a great matchup for DeAndre Swift. The problem with DeAndre Swift is he's DeAndre Swift. He's not that good, but I mean we saw success from a couple running backs. They've been giving it up to the running back the Colts have. So I mean you can go to him. I don't mind him at all. He's pretty cheap. On the Colts side, Anthony Richardson, he's at home in a dome. He's a little pricey. This isn't the best matchup for him. He's always got upside because he can do it on the ground. as far as who you're going to pair him with, I mean, he hasn't connected with Michael Pittman. He doesn't look the same. Alex Pierce looks like he's kind of emerging as his favorite target, but you got Josh Downs coming back in this game, so who knows how they're going to distribute the ball like that. I think with Jonathan Taylor, something happened with him last week. He was like on the bench during the fourth quarter. They weren't using him. He was kind of in the doghouse. He was complaining about something. I don't know what the situation is with him over there. If you want to you go to him. I like these running backs at home in a dome. I mean, I don't mind Jonathan Taylor here.
I think it's just interesting that he's, we've got him obviously when we get to the stone, we'll pull it up and you'll see what it is. But I think it's the perfect color for him. You know what you're getting. We're looking for this stuff. Last week, what's funny is it's inverted, right? Title. Like last week, Alvin Kamara ends up being, he's the guy that's on there in blue. Then he's, nobody really plays him. Even in the DAX stacks, it was kind of hard to talk people into it. He ends up being the guy that breaks the slate. This week is just reminiscent of that. I mean, they are at home. There is a chance. I don't really see much competition behind him. The matchup is strong on paper, yet everyone's going to Kamara and other guys in that range, and I get why. But he definitely still fits in from a tournament perspective. So you want to fill in some of these chalkier stacks around it. I don't mind going to him as the leverage play that you're sort of putting into your lineup where you're pivoting off of one of the other running backs in that range. What's your thoughts on this game overall?
Yeah, I don't hate the JT call because he has to be squeezed. Like you could be talking 5%. Now, the thing is, when I really go and look at it in a vacuum, I prefer Saquon at 7.7. We'll get there. I think he's a phenomenal play today. Prefer Kamara for 7.5. Ownership shows that. I prefer a chain for 300 less. And I think I prefer Gibbs in that game environment for 500 less. So at such a loaded position, I just don't think I'll be able to get there much. And I also like Anthony Richardson a bit because, I just love him at home. And everyone knows he's a fantasy monster. Awful last week against the Packers. You can say he sucks at quarterback, like Hoop loves saying about Kyler, this, that, whatever. He's plus 110 to score. Plenty of 2 rushing touchdown upside, which is another reason why JT always tilts me. Then fourth quarter, when they were down, they're worried he can't catch passes, I guess. So that's always, if it's a bad game script, you have that working against you for JT. But yeah, the Richardson upside is always so big. I like it at home. Pittman, I think, is still going to be my number one, but Scarface is definitely right. Like, with Downs coming back, too, we had so much hype in the preseason before his ankle injury. He was getting steamed in best ball. Alec Pierce has been a deep threat guy. Donnie Mitchell, he's missed multiple times. Richardson has, who's been open. I think I'm just still going to say, 2 weeks is not enough sample size. It was Pittman all year. Pittman was being drafted really high. He was the guy. I think I'm just going to go A-Rich Pittman mainly. But the larger field stuff, Richardson's going to be low owned, and all those pass catchers are going to be pretty low owned too. So you get your 60-yard bomb to Pierce, you'll be really, really happy. You get it to Mitchell. There's a lot of explosiveness on that cold side, so I like it.
Anything you want to bring it back with on the Bears side with some of the stuff like Keenan Allen out, the Swift, they pulled a D-Gen. Shout out to our guy, Degenerate75, Scarface, checks notes. Oh yeah, DeAndre Swift sucks. Found the notes, but anything you got from that Chicago side title?
Oh gosh, the problem is running back so loaded. I just feel like such a donkey playing DeAndre Swift. Herbert got in last week, I believe. The DJ Moore stuff, yeah, maybe FanDuel. FanDuel is a solid price, not really. And you don't need to run it back with A-Rich. He can get there in any game environment. So to be honest, no.
And then you can just skinny stack it, like you said. You go A-Rich, one guy, and pop it up and roll it from there. You don't have to do anything crazy. I do think that's something. I'm trying to buy you guys time. We're at 250 likes. Almost 650 watching. Make sure you hit the like. When we get to 500, we're going to pop the stone up, and there's a lot of games this afternoon. But I think the Bears fits this mold. Maybe it fits it better in a couple of games from now, but just trying to force something on the other side. It's going to be the Rams. So I'll spoil it when we get there later. Everyone thinks they know who it is, but there's 6 guys that it could be that you end up needing as the run back. And does one of them probably smash it? Yes. But you can bury a lot of lineups chasing that, 10% of this guy, 10% of that guy, 10% of this guy. And next thing all those lineups are going in the garbage and you're down to just a few. So Bears would fit that mold. You absolutely do not have to run it back. I'll even play some Colts D with Jonathan Taylor. Let's go to the next game. Much better game here, I think. Title, I'm going to stick with you. Vikings at home versus the Texans. And obviously the biggest conversation is the Cam Akers, highest owned on the slate, $4,700. It's just got to be him, but there's a lot of different ways you can get after this game.
Come on, man. Back to back. Nico DeFrico times 100 Jetta season. 2 of the best receivers right there matched up in a dome. Ownership's going to be in check. Come on, man. That is such a sexy skinny stack right there. The problem is it's expensive. You can go the Darnold side. I will have maybe a little Darnold. The thing is, this like cheap quarterbacks being able to jam. Like if you're playing Hurts, you're not going to be able to play Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, because you're going to want to play Smith or whatever it is. So it gets you, if I do want to jam those two, the Darnold who's played well in a dome, no rushing upside. So I don't love it, but I'm going to play some. The other side's easier, CJ Stroud. So Cam Akers is going to be mega chalk on both sides. How does Cam Akers bust? It's probably not Adari Ogunbowale. It's probably CJ Stroud drops back 40 times. He carves them up through the air, and Cam Akers fails that way, and the running back room is so loaded. So I prefer – you can play Cam Akers in CJ Stroud stuff because of the price, but I think I do prefer not to in more of my builds because of the leverage. Then you have 3 options, and you can say 4, I guess, if you want to go Dalton Schultz at tight end. We always talk about the tight end position being weak. You only can play 1. If you play him with your quarterback, it makes it easy. You need less things to happen in an absolute nuke game from him. But you have Nico, you have Diggs, you have Tank Dell. Nico's by far my favorite. I mean, just the eye test wise, I think this dude is a complete freak. Probably Tank Dell second, but I think ownership's going to be that way too. I do think Diggs comes in the least owned, and at the end of the day, who really knows? So, I mean, such a good spot. But I'll have some lineups where I just go Nico, Jefferson, and then that's it for this game. But 2 of my favorite plays right there. I always love Jefferson, as y'all know. Ownership will be in check. There's enough cheap pieces. Nico's one of my favorite plays on the slate.
Yeah, I like that call. And, Scam Akers, we use the scam nickname for Cams in golf a lot, but knew that one was coming up today. I'm sure Jordan Whittington will happen later when he doesn't come through as the sneaky play. And this one is kind of titled, before I go to Scarface, a levels to this shit. Like this is the setup where everyone thinks it's not Cam, it's Tank Dell. Well, guess what? The ownership is all over Tank Dell now. He's up to like 15%. He's a top value play that people are going to everywhere. He's popping into optimizers, you name it. So the levels to it might be that we actually see Nico. And on the Stone, it doesn't show this. I do have access. I'm looking right at it. It doesn't show it yet, but because it's a priced up wide receiver, I think his ownership is the one that sort of comes back a little bit and Tank stays where it is. So I think that's how it looks, because the other thing too is the way to get to this game. What most people are doing, I think, is they're stacking up Darnold, Jefferson, and then somebody on the other side. Yep. We'll get to Naylor in a second. I think Naylor is actually really interesting. He's less than Tank Dell. You can fit him into that same stack, and then it's okay to get to Tank Dell if you need the money, or now you have a little bit more between Darnold and Naylor to get up to Nico Collins. And if you want to overstack it, that's another way to play Cam Akers. But I think there's some other ways to go against it here as well. Scarface, I'll let you chime in here. Texans, Vikings, big game to talk about. Probably the first one on the docket so far.
Yeah, I mean, it just you were talking about Cam Akers. It just depends on what you're going to do with Cam Akers here. On FanDuel, he's just completely mispriced. There's no way I'm going to fade him on FanDuel. 4K, it just unlocks the whole slate for you. On DraftKings, there's definitely a path to fading him there. And he was talking about the CJ Stroud. That's the way you fade him. You don't play him. You play the Stroud stacks. You throw in a couple of the receivers. With Stroud, I definitely want to double stack him. I want to Tank Dell. I would definitely put Tank Dell on that stack. And then you just kind of got to choose between Nico and Diggs. Diggs is going to get squeezed. He's for sure going to be the lowest owned out of all those guys. If you believe in the revenge narrative, I mean, there's that factor there. Another play I like in this game, I really like the Minnesota defense here. If you decide just to fade this game, or I think you could even play him with Cam Akers. Minnesota defense at home, I mean, they got 11 sacks on the year so far. They got 3 interceptions. I know they played against Daniel Jones week 1, but they played against Brock Purdy last week too, and they sacked him 6 times. I kind of like Minnesota in this game a little bit. With the Vikings offense, yeah, Justin Jefferson, always. You could definitely play him. He's always going to come in low owned. I'm wondering what happened. What was his injury? He has no injury designation right now, but I'm wondering. He banged knees. It was like a run play outside or something, and then he was trying to chip or crack down, and it looks like banging knees, like a bruise. Did he end up sitting out the last quarter? Yeah, he did. He did, right? Yeah. So I mean, he doesn't have an injury designation, so I'm sure he's okay. He's always playable. I mean, he's a slate breaker. You can always play anytime. But for the most part, I'm not crazy about anybody on the Vikings here. It's just what you decide to do with Cam Akers. And my plan is to definitely play him.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm glad you got to the defense one. That was going to be certainly one of my takes, is that it's always fine to if you're not landing on anything from that side anyway, you don't have to leverage him. You don't have to. You can just play against it. We saw this just last week with all those Rams, and then the Arizona D ends up on the main lineup because it's just none of them ended up getting there. San Francisco, whatever it was, there was a couple different situations like this. you can play him in the overstacks because once you get to Cam Akers, he's popular. But if you're adding in Diggs or Collins with Darnold, Naylor, and Jefferson, like you're already using him in a totally different way, where if that game pops off and most people have just Cam Akers, well, you've got the whole thing now, and the whole thing's starting to pop off, and everyone's digging through saying, I got a lot of Akers, but a lot of my lineups are looking pretty dead because these guys are just going off and breaking the slate. So that would be the other way. And then I love the Minnesota D call that you brought up.
And they're cheap too. They're cheap. You can get to them.
2,400. They're right there. And I like the Panthers down there too. We'll get to later. Same reason. If you're not on some of the stuff with Brock Bowers or situational stuff there, but the Vikings are right there and they make a lot of sense in the non-lineups. In the higher stakes, smaller field stuff, people were asking earlier too, you can still play them. 2,400 versus 4,700. It's just a combo pack. They can both still get there and be fine. We've seen it happen a lot. So everyone says he sucks and he's cheats. It's not really about his play as much as what he unlocks on the rest of your lineup. Like you talked about FanDuel, you can get to everything at that point.
He just he can get no yards, just fall into the end zone, and you're going to need him.
Yeah. Did you look at his props title too? Like, I know it's not a big deal. His price is his price, so who cares? But I thought his props weren't bad. I thought it was like 55 on the ground. Thought it was, 20 through the air maybe, or 15, 16 through the air, and then decent touchdown prop as well. Obviously no one there.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. I appreciate you buying me time. I hate how DraftKings
minus 125 to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then his rushing prop, 58.5. Yeah, he has just no competition. Like, Dari is just a pass catching back. So when you're applied for 22 points as the only running back, yeah, it's good. The props are good for sure.
And it's typically, this becomes a play that's fine when obviously his price and his ownership, it all says it anyway. But my point would be, when people on Twitter are constantly going off about like looking for another angle, are you sure he's the guy? Are we sure it's not his name, and go through all this stuff? They're looking for every angle, and it's like, it's just a play, man. Just pop them in and get different elsewhere. But we've given you a bunch of ways you can go against him too. So
if he scores 13, I'm telling you that right now. How many percent would you have?
He'd be fine at that. I mean, you're going to get so much.
You'd have 100 on DK.
I mean, there was the slate last year with Zach Moss in the same situation, and
he had 8 or something.
Zach Moss had a shitty game, and he was still on the winner, wasn't he?
Yeah.
This is the same situation.
Someone asked about that last week with Mason, seeing like Mason over 50. Zach Moss was 60 something on that slate, and that's just the whole point, right? Like,
the only pushback to that
is kill you if you bust. I mean,
yeah,
it'll kill you more if you don't have them.
For sure. The running back room's so loaded where if you told me 13, I don't know. On DK, I'd probably fade. FanDuel, you take 13 and run all day. But yeah, it's interesting.
FanDuel, I mean, you can't get away from that.
No, FanDuel 13 that's
FanDuel's really tough. And even on DraftKings, though, I know what you're saying, because there's going to be that's almost like the Daniel Jones situation, though.
Yep.
A different way of saying it. Obviously, that's a onesie position at quarterback. But what I'm talking about is where like Kyler smashed him by 10 or 11 points, but it's what it did for your lineup that's why he still ended up on it versus the other. It's the same thing here. I'm with you. There's probably at least 3 running backs that are going to crush that score, but 4,700 versus 7,500 or 4,700 versus 7K. It's only so much you can do, and there's lots of other ways and whatever else it brings in your lineup.
It just opens up the whole slate for you. It allows you to do pretty much whatever you want. And that's what I was talking about earlier on when we started the show.
Yeah. No, good chat through that game. People have questions. More, they can throw it in. There's over 700 watching. I'll give you a quick update on the likes. I'm trying to get you guys there. These games are starting to pop off. We got a good one coming up next in Eagles Saints. But if we get to 500 likes, we'll pop the stone up. We're about 315 right now. So keep it rolling. Once we get to the 500, we'll pop the stone up. But Scarface, I'm going to stay with you. Eagles at the Saints. A lot of conversation in this game as well. It's actually pretty chalky. I mean, the car side of things that people are talking about, all of Kamara, Olave, Shaheed, the other side with Devontae Smith. There's just a bunch of action in this game. How are you thinking about handling this one?
Yeah, there's just so many ways to attack this game. And I definitely want something from this game. There's so much fantasy goodness here. I mean, the injury to A.J. Brown, like what do you do with Devontae Smith? The injury to Taysom Hill, what does that do for the Saints? I just think the injury to Taysom Hill, with him being ruled out, it just is going to make Olave and Kamara and Shaheed more valuable here. I think the targets are going to go to them. It's not going to go to Foster Moreau or something like that. I mean, I'm sure he's playable too, but something I'm not going to go to. For me, it starts with Olave. I mean, he's been kind of shut out pretty much to start the year. I think it's been mostly due to the game script. They've kind of ran away with their 2 previous games. Then the production just kind of came from Shaheed and Kamara. But, I mean, he's going to be involved in this game. This game projects to be much closer than what we've seen the last 2 weeks. I think, we talk about breakout soon. Like he's their guy. Like he's gonna get he's gonna break out. I think this is the game for him. I love Olave. Kamara, obviously, he's been on fire to start. He just looks like Carr's got this connection with all these guys. The Derek Carr stacks are going to be popular, and I definitely get it, and I definitely want some of that too. Just how do you stack them? Like, do you use them with Kamara and a receiver, or you leave Kamara out of it? Do you play him with Shaheed and Olave, and you kind of project like a game going back and forth like that? Who do you run it back with? On the other side, I mean, I love Devontae Smith. We saw with AJ Brown now. Like he's just getting all the targets. Jalen Hurts too. I mean, we saw him going back to that tush push. The one who's getting squeezed out of this game completely is Saquon. Like, what do you do with Saquon here, right? I have no idea what I'm gonna do with Saquon. Maybe one of you guys will talk me onto him. But I love the Eagles side with Devontae Smith, and I love all the things.
Yeah, that's the one. And you were talking about it earlier, Title, so I'll let you take it over first. But Jake the Take. He's always in here with the good ones. This could be the thing. +3 is they're still the Saints. I know it's been insane, and I saw a bunch of stats this week that they actually could be even better. And these guys, Shaheed getting more short work. And from a DFS perspective, I get loading up on that side, and I'm good with that. But from a game perspective and the breakdown, this could most certainly be a spot where Saquon, Goddard, all these guys still step up in the absence of AJ Brown, and Hurts does his job, and they're in this game or winning this game. So what's your thoughts on the game, and then apply it with Saquon? I know you mentioned him earlier as a really good play on the slate.
Yeah, thoughts on this game is, man, it's going to be hella chalky. Like, there's still 12 games on the slate. This one, I mean, probably one of the highest. Like, you have the spend-up QB and Hurts. There's a couple of them, but that'll be one of the main spend-ups people go to if they want. Easy pairing with Devontae Smith. The Carr side, I mean, he's been the best quarterback. Feels like this year, Shaheed can't bust. So I think he gets a little more steam than people show. Again, not popular by any means, but he's got the job done twice in a row. I love the Olave price. I'm with Scarface. I talk about him pretty much every show, and he just keeps taking my money. One of these weeks, it's going to be a close game. He's going to have 4 quarters to nuke. No Taysom, the Kamara stuff, he's one of the most likely to score on the slate at -200. So I like it, but it's like, man, it's pretty chalky. So I don't know. I'm indifferent to this game, really, to be honest. I hope it is just all Kamara on the ground, all Olave through the air. Or the other side, why Saquon's so interesting. Devontae's going to get some ownership. Hurts is a spend up. And running back so loaded, he just has to be low owned. And his usage this year has been absolutely insane. He is -155 to score. If it's not Hurts getting the tush push, it's probably Saquon getting at the goal line. If he gets in too, I mean, he's going to be – what do we got him on the stone right now? We have him at 5.7%. Yeah. Crazy. That's crazy. That's how you can win
a game like this. Like, he's just going completely overlooked.
Completely. So I like that.
Too, because this is now the flip side of last week. Legitimately, it's now Kamara, right? And you can go to the other side for $200 more and get a guy at like 1/5 the ownership in a spot where it's another amazing O-line versus a pretty rough D-line that, again, it's been good so far, but it's like you said, when you get up there, we'll see what happens. Obviously, the tush push can crush that or some stuff there, but I think just in general, Barkley certainly looks good. And even if you want to use him to sort of another way, if Carr and all those guys are popular, it's often going to be with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, and Goddard's coming in at lower ownership, so I think he's kind of nice too. But just saying it, if you did want to get different with that stack, play the game that Barkley gets in too early, and then Carr has to battle back, and they are okay on paper, and they do show up at home and make a game out of this, and then you got your stack set up differently than the rest of the field with some of the same guys.
What's your thoughts? Someone pulled it up or asked, Hurts naked. It's not something I love to do, but I will say, man, he looked not old, Jalen Hurts, but like 2 years ago when he was actually taking off and running, he finally showed some of that burst last week and willingness to do it. So what do you think on that?
Yeah,
I'm not with the Hurts naked. I definitely like to pair him.
Yeah, I usually do too.
I prefer to pair him with at least one, but I will say we've seen this happen a bunch of times too. It's the inverse of last week with the Daniel Jones and the Kyler. If Hurts really smacks Carr up and it ends up being, 12, 15 points, because we have the value at other positions, you could have one of those sneaky ones where it's like Jalen Hurts with Olave and Shaheed, or with Shaheed and a Jawan Johnson or Foster Moreau or something like that. You've got him as the quarterback, the 2 pass catchers. Shaheed has a big game, but it doesn't make Carr break the slate. And then the tight end gets a few catches and a touchdown or something like that, where, well, that helps Carr. His other numbers stay down. Hurts scores 2 on the ground, throws 1 to a random, and that's the setup that you need. I know it's a lot of if-thens, but that's the type of quarterback and the type of game that you would see it with, where you can set that up on your lineups.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Man, this game's come with a lot with ownership, but
It is.
like,
It is.
like you said, there is like Foster Moreau. We didn't even talk about him. No Taysom, a full punt tight end. Oh, Scarface talked about him and he hinted his hand. He doesn't like Foster Moreau, and rightfully so. Who's excited to click that button? But 1 touchdown, 8 points, 9 points. What it gets you the right. If you want J-Jets, you want Nico, you want her, like that's the stuff to fill in. So yeah.
And that's what's going to decide it. I was saying with the Akers talk earlier, all that different stuff you talk about. There's other guys on the slate. Like if you don't play Akers, you could play Naylor at wide receiver for less, and sort of get a guy that's filling the Hawkinson role right now and looks pretty solid. But in general, it's all how your lineup sets up. Some people will have both of them together because they're literally in the same game. Some will play him instead at a wide receiver position as opposed to the other. So there's other ways to set it up. This game, very much the same, but
What about Hebrews guy Covey?
Are we playing Showdown?
3,200, man. What if he gets another 7 targets? This guy could wrap it up, man.
They were all bubble screens. I mean, literally all bubbles.
Yeah.
I actually could say this. I ran some lineups this morning, and with my Hertz stacks, he's getting into them a little bit. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if you watched that game, but most of us did. Shout out to our guy Rio on that one. Hebrew Cheetah. He got the big dog score, 101K plus. And it was awesome, but they were trying to get Covey in the box. It wasn't just those short catches.
Yeah,
there was 3 times that they tried to jam him in the box, and he just didn't quite get there. So I think at least somewhat interesting if you are stacking up the Hurt side. He's a value play that you could go to. The other thing is just the floor ceiling protection now. People always get confused on this. Alvin Kamara, there's no way he's going to come out and score 3 or 4 touchdowns again. No shit. That's not very likely. But he doesn't have to. His price barely moved. He could have got you 30 points last week, and you would have been loving life. It's hard to get 30 points in DraftKings right now. On
22 points, you'd be happy with it.
Right. And if you now take away a guy like Taysom Hill, that's some of your action that you're usually a little bit worried about. There is just that much more opportunity. His props got to be solid and through the roof, and hence the ownership, why it's there. But there's enough running backs on this slate, plus enough people that are scared about chasing that don't really want to go there. So I at least think that's somewhat interesting. Scarface, quick question for you. Just our guy Jake always throws some good stuff out there. Sure. You play a lot more on FanDuel, and he had asked, it actually wasn't Jake, it was Kinsley Moments. I missed up his comment earlier. Said on FanDuel, how many pivots do you want for large field GPPs? If you're playing like 100 plus lineups, 50 plus lineups, even a bigger number, are you running, more uniques than usual, or are you keeping it pretty trim to what your pool's at and just a couple uniques?
The pivots are what pay off on FanDuel. I mean, most of the tournaments that I've done really good on FanDuel, it's those pivots. Plug in some of these chalky guys, take them out, then look at the guys in the price range right next to them. That's the play. I use that strategy all the time on FanDuel.
Yeah, I like using the more lineups I have. I think that's kind of the combination. I would say if you play lighter, play tighter. If you're only playing 15, 20 lineups, I think you can definitely just move around a few pieces, 2-3 pieces. But in the larger field stuff, I want a little bit more variance pulled in. I want more outs to the top, if you will, where I can mix those in. Title, you think pretty much the same for anything GPP large field stuff?
Yeah, but also it's like, just say you're playing some chalk, but you didn't play Cam Akers on FanDuel. So you're playing some chalk, but you faded a monster chalk. Well, then you don't have to get as crazy with your pivots. And that's something we talk about Shiptimizer. Even if you only play 1 lineup, 2 lineups, I love how we have it where you can sort by our projection or what the projection is, what the total ownership is. You don't want to be 40 points off your projection in a tournament because projections are usually pretty sharp in NFL. So being able to compare, you don't want to give up too much. You can see a low ownership team still projects pretty well. Then you click it. Usually it's just 2 spots. 2 spots can be a huge plenty right there to win all the cheese. So yep.
Yeah, and think about it too when you're plugging in your stuff. Well, kind of that point we made earlier and talked about with, not many guys getting to 25 plus DraftKings points. You get 5 of them into your lineup. That's where the Akers thing doesn't really matter. I mean, did you get to the right 5 guys that scored you 30 plus or 25 plus? Then the quarterback that attaches to them may be part of that. You get extra points out of them and so on and so forth. It's just really tough to do. So you got to almost be perfect on DraftKings. You need to make things happen to make it work. Definitely got some love for Goddard. He at least looks somewhat interesting if you want to run the full passing stack of like Carr, Olave, Shaheed, or whatever it might be, and then just use Goddard as the run back. You're not on Devontae Smith, who's popular for good reason. You're not trying to figure it out with some of the other dudes. Definitely the main setup. Takedown, reach out to me, info@shipitnation.com, or send me a DM with your details. We'll check it out, maybe be able to hook you up there, no problem. But let's move on. Almost 400 likes, 750 people watching. So once we get to 500, we are going to the stone. We'll pull it up for you guys, but let's move on to the next game. Scarface, going to go to you. It's the Chargers at the Steelers. The news overnight was Herbert's going to dress up and go. But they've got Easton Stick and Taylor Heineke dressed as well. So wonder how this shakes out and get your thoughts on that. It's Chargers at the Steelers where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, they could put anybody behind center. I'm just not playing anybody from the Chargers. I mean, this game it's an ugly game. I think it's the lowest total on the slate. I mean, it's pretty much just a kind of a cross-off for me. There's nothing on the Chargers that I like. I mean, the defenses are something I would look at in this game. I mean, those are going to be really popular. I could sit here and try to kind of make a case for George Pickens. I mean, it's such a big slate with so many better spots. I don't see the need to go to anybody in this game. You know, the defenses are in play. Like I said, George Pickens is somebody maybe that I would look at. He's probably going to come in low-owned in tournaments. He's probably the only play in this game that I like. Yeah,
Pickens, maybe Freiermuth as sort of that mid-range punt tight end. You do got to fill the spot. People talked about this. I like this take. Someone had it on X, and I was looking it up. But just the Kmet love that Fields always had. It's like now you get a Pat Freiermuth in there where it could be very similar for 4K. But Steelers D title is getting talked up because of this quarterback situation. But man, I don't know. Like, are they really going to have to drop back and throw a bunch of times? I don't think Steelers really pull away to cause that versus earlier against the Bears. Kind of the reason I brought up the Indy D earlier. They're $100 less than the Steelers Buccaneers here. Oh. If Indy does get ahead at home, then I think Caleb does have to start chucking, and they won't be trying to hide him. They're just going to see what they got. And if it breaks up and gets busted down and intercepted, then sure. But Steelers D has looked good to start the season. I just don't know about the opportunities here as much as people might think they happen. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. It's like when you play defense, it's not everyone thinks this way, but you want a team that's going to drop back a lot because that's how you have opportunity for fumbles, pick sixes, you name it. You want to score points. You just no sacks and they run the ball down your throat and you only give up 10 points. Well, your defense might score 6-7 and that's not breaking a slate. So yeah, I don't love really anything in this game. Like people are talking about Fields. I guess if I had to say anything, Fields and naked, but I don't even like Fields and naked this week. Like give me all these, like a Sam Darnold with Jefferson. Give me Derek Carr with these other Saints guys. Give me A-Rich for more. So, no, this game's gross.
It's hard to picture anybody from this game on any kind of winner. I couldn't. The more I look at it, I couldn't find it.
This is crazy to hear this one, but it is, again, I don't think I'm getting any of this, but I get it. Like, if you wanted to go the opposite side, Fields can make mistakes, but it's such a hard time playing Dobbins. I don't care what he's done already. First of all, that's been crazy, even what he's been doing. Second of all, on the usage especially. Second of all, 6,400. There's just so many running backs on this slate that I've got ahead of him that, again, if you want to get there, all the power to you. I get it, and I don't hate it. But, I love stuff like that. It's just hard to see it happening, though, with the way things set up. So before we get to the next game, just about to hit 410 likes, so we're almost there. So I want to buy you guys just a little more time because we're getting close to the good games here. Brian says, absolute rookie with NFL DFS, but throwing a few lineups in each slate and showdowns. Not done too well so far. Don't really know much about the players. Not really a sales pitch, but I will bring up and tell you, because our guy Kat brought it up earlier, Nick, always repping and supporting, wearing the gear to the marathons. Appreciate you. The community is just so strong, but says, buy the educational course. It comes free with any membership. So I'll quickly just turn it over and show that fast while you guys hit that like button. But if you go to shipitnation.com, where's my screen at here, boys? Let's go there. We got it. And you go to more education NFL. This comes free with any membership. You can access the course here, but it's a 4-hour course and we broke down everything. There's the full process on setting yourself up for success. There's a whole section, 45 minutes just on showdown. We break down satellites and qualifiers. This is the way a lot of our members are finding their way to these big tournaments and finding their way into playing where a level that they're usually not at and can find their first big score. Tons of stuff around roster construction, game theory, leverage, correlation, hoops, Millie Maker winner review, breaking down his whole process, my live final breakdown, and then all the Q&A. So we did a full member Q&A. That's like another 25, 30 minutes of answering every question that wasn't attacked within the course itself. This course comes fully free with any membership over at the site. So hopefully that helps you guys. I just want to make sure you knew about it. We'll go back to stopping the screen. pull it back.
When you're doing that, first of all, that's awesome. Alex Hahn, Grinder was MLB. He was up there a month or two ago with you, Scarface. He was in the 555 or something like they took second.
Yeah.
So shout out to Alex Hahn. And then where was this one? I was thinking that in my head when I said it too. How I said it definitely sounded sus. So my bad on that.
You can't be doing that. Come on now.
No, I can't.
All right, let's go. Jake says this one too. This one I was looking here. If Herbert sits, then Dobbins could touch it, but Tom is going to have that D on a bean. Yeah, that's the one thing that's what I was trying to say earlier. This again I'll tell you this, running the lineups this morning with the latest update, the optimizer wants to give a lot of the Steelers now for good reason. They're getting popped up. The Chargers side doesn't look strong. I just worry that the Steelers don't pull away enough to make it be that they have to do anything. And even if Herbert stands in there, or if it does become Easton Stick or Heineke or whatever, my worry would just be that it's not going to be as strong as what you actually need. And they're definitely going to get the late steam. The ownership doesn't show it on the stone right now, but just from the running the optimizer this morning. Yeah. Shout out to my guy, Alex Hahn, getting the job done. The bad beat jackpot. That's a hit, man. Love to see that.
That's it.
All right. What are we at here? Let's check it out. We got 426. So we're getting close. We're going to get another game in, but you guys got to smash that like button. Shout out to our guy, BG Little Neck. Crazy slate plan right up. I had members hit me up saying just great job to him. He got me to build a lineup that I'll talk about later. Not a single guy from the morning. And then shout out to Millie Maker. Mark, one of our Millie Maker winners from last season, says watch the course, get into the Discord. The Discord chat will also teach you a lot. That's the goal. That's what we want to be doing. So 100% in with that. We appreciate you. Title, going back to you, man. Broncos, Bucks. Everybody wanted Baker. First 2 weeks, nobody really wants Baker anymore here. And maybe it's the Denver D. I don't know your thoughts on that and just some of the other stuff. But Broncos, Bucks, double Bs here. What are we doing in this game?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like how you say, for sure, everyone wanted Baker. Now he's at home. They're implied for almost 24 points. Like it all looks pretty good. But when you do play him, Chris Godwin's going to be popular. Really the only one that's getting some ownership in this game, and rightfully so. Ever since he moved to the slot, he's been a complete monster. You want to pivot, though. Mike Evans is a third of the ownership, might even be a fourth of the ownership. If I do play Baker, which I will in some stuff, just because he is coming in really low owned, him and Mike Evans will be completely unowned. And then you can throw a chalkier Godwin in there. No, I don't want to run it back. If I did run it back, Dulcich maybe, just because the position's that bad. But man, recommending Greg Dulcich is not the move to make money. So probably no Broncos. They stink. Baker's fine, but really, I like Bucks D. I should say that. But they're going to be popular. So if you want to get it a little different, you can go Rachaad White, Bucks D. I don't love Rachaad White, though, because we talked about how loaded the running back room is. And Bucky Irving, I think, is going to have a little piece of the pie moving forward. So Godwin, Bucks D, and Mike Evans are really low ownership, mainly in Baker stuff. I don't love this game, though, either.
This Scarface, what's your take on this? How much do you read into these matchups that these guys go through? Because I think it was just like a week ago when they told me the guy for whatever team it was, New England, was going to lock down
Gonzalez covering Metcalf.
And then broke him up. So, I mean, I make fun of it all the time. I believe that it's good, tidbits. It's good info. I check it all out just as much as you guys do. I think it's great, but it's one game, right? Like just anything can happen. And oftentimes that just brings lower ownership. And like Title said, you get Mike Evans with pretty much no ownership here at all, but I get why Godwin's getting the ownership too, and he's kind of being kept in check. So your take on this game, Scarface?
Yeah, I mean, Godwin, he's always going to be owned. He's seen 8 targets a game, and he's scored touchdowns in both games so far. He's always going to be priced lower than Mike Evans, and it's kind of easy to get to him on both sides. I mean, if you just kind of if you're building out a lineup and you just fall on Chris Godwin, it's easy just to plug him in, right? And you're talking about the matchups. I mean, Mike Evans is Mike Evans. He's going to be dealing with Pat Surtain. I mean, that's, Pat Surtain, he's one of those shutdown corners. Just like Title said, that's why it's going to keep his ownership in check. Can Mike Evans, go off against anybody? I mean, sure he can. But, there's receivers in better spots. I get, it's a tournament play. If you want to play a tournament, you want to get, frisky, play Baker, put him with Mike Evans, I mean, double stack him if you want. You can do anything you want in tournaments. It's not something that I'm going to be doing. On the Broncos side, there's absolutely nothing that I like. I think the Broncos can kind of keep this game close. Their defense is pretty good. Their offense is shit, but their defense is pretty good. I mean, if you're betting this game, I love the 6.5 with the Broncos.
Yeah, I want to say something real quick. This stuff comes up all the time. I know other people are touting this and looking at it, and that's fine. Like, to each their own, and never would shit on anybody for that. But in a $20 Millie Maker with 200,000 lineups, there might be 700 lineups, 600 lineups that have this guy. Even if you absolutely nail him, of those 600 lineups, probably 500 of them die on impact because the quarterback, the stack was wrong, whatever else it might be. These plays, bet them. Go find his props and hammer them and make your money that way. It's very unlikely. If it happens, great. And it's not like I don't care. Like, if it happens and I said this, doesn't bother me. I'm just explaining the theory of it, of what people don't understand. It happens in all DFS sports. Everyone spends all week long trying to find a diamond in the rough, forgetting that nobody's playing that diamond. So it's not actually as valuable as you think it is, because even if you do get it right, so much else goes wrong. Same with everyone else. And it doesn't actually end up being worth shit. So can be fool's gold if you want to look at it that way. I don't know, Scarface, if you got any thoughts on that, but typically
like these diamonds you're talking about, those work great in like a showdown slate on these like huge 12-game slates with all these like high totals, these game environments. I don't even get that. I'll never get that cute and play these guys. Yeah, in the Millie Maker, fine. But like you said, you got to nail this. You got to nail that. I mean, I don't play the guessing game. I go with plays that I think are.
You'd rather play Mike Evans at 2% own that we just talked about in that than you like. Exactly. It makes no sense on the main slate.
Find me what you said. Yeah, find me Evans at 4%, who really can break the slate and get you 30 and be on there. Find me the guy like Barkley, who we talked about earlier, who can flip that build from everyone on these Saints or Kamara side, or a way to get different instead of playing, and play him on the opposite side with the car passing game. Go double leverage, even though those guys aren't really leveraged because they're quite owned, but you get what I'm saying. Build that stuff differently. That's how I'll be looking at it more. And oftentimes we do the takedown breakdown every Monday here on this channel. You just never see those guys maybe on the very optimal, but that could be 30, 50 points away from what you actually needed to win tournaments. So stop trying to look for that and focus in on finding some good plays at lower ownership that nobody's getting to, and go from there. So yeah. Nick,
Godwin's the only one I like in this game.
Yeah, Godwin, with the talk all week on him is just the pressure stuff. Broncos blitz at the highest level. Again, it's early in the season, so even that stuff is tough, but he has sort of filled the Cooper Kupp role, if you will, is the common saying on him right now. So I get it. The Greg Dulcich with Godwin secondary stack, just pop those two in for free because it's so cheap. If you land there, I wouldn't hate it, but again, not something I'm super high on. We are at 400, and this is timing out perfect, guys. I'll tell you, take a stop for 2 seconds, smash the like, make sure you're subscribed. If you see subscribe in the bottom, you're not subscribed. You have to click that and turn it on. We're giving away a $300 membership at the end of this show to somebody who's been in the chat, giving some good info. Title and Scarface, we'll keep an eye on that. But just to note it quickly, we only have one more game before the afternoon game. So you guys are on pace, just 40 likes away, and you'll get all 5 games pulled up on the stone to be able to see the afternoon, where there's a ton of targets to get after. But Title, your old school Packers versus the Titans. What are you doing here with this one?
You ready to watch a little high school football, wishbone, pound the ball 50 times? I mean, that's what you're going to get again. Josh Jacobs ran the ball, 32 times last game? If you're giving anybody the ball 30-plus times as a running back this year, in 2024, at less than 10%, I think I have to have some interest in GPPs. Then you can go Packers defense too if you want to do that. If Packers get up, Josh Jacobs plays well, Will Levis has to drop back multiple times. I mean, Packers are going to pin their ears back, and it's going to get gross for Tennessee. So it's Jacobs, it's Packers D if I want to go that route. And Tony Pollard's, I guess, a little interesting. The thing is, when I play these running backs, I want 30-plus point upside, because there's so many cheap ones, like Akers at 14 could be enough for roster construction. Jordan Mason's in such a smash spot for 2K too cheap. You have Charbonnet, 2K too cheap. The spend up, Saquon, Kamara, a chain all feel like they have 35 in their bag. So if I'm playing anybody not named them, I want upside. Jacobs can get the ball 30-plus times. Fumbled at the goal line last week. He clearly has upside. I'll throw it to you, I guess, on this, Tambo. Can Pollard get 25 today?
Yeah,
I'd play him then.
Yeah, so what I was following all week, and Spears is obviously going to be in there now. There was a chance that he was going to be out, but they were like very limited. The injuries they weren't even using him a lot. It's a lot of attempts. It's a lot of, even some pass catching options for Pollard. So, and this Green Bay D, I think, is strong. So I like both defenses in this game, but I like a setup where if I do go with the Pollard side, I can even put him with the Titans D for a cheap spot. And he's 6K. He's a Charbonnet pivot. So especially if you're getting to some of the Geno, I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I like some other guys there. So you can flip the build, go like Geno, Metcalf, JSN when we get to that later on. Use HN on the other side, and then have like a Pollard in there as well, because you're flipping it double down. You're not on Charbonnet, and you're going to Pollard at the same price. I also like the Packers D stats on that one. I mean, this goes back on Will Levis. I know our guy is in here somewhere. Juice. He's putting the fire up. I can't find his original one, but man, he's a big time Will Levis lover. He won him $80,000 last year off of $16. It was nuts. And then more, another like $40K later in the season. He's calling Levis Day, so maybe. But man, Levis is like a 1-to-1 ratio on his touchdowns and interceptions, and this would be a spot opposite to the one I talked about earlier, where I could see Josh Jacobs, Green Bay making some sense, something like that. So Scarface, I'll get your take on it. This game here, Green Bay Packers and the Titans.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on the running backs. Josh Jacobs, I mean, he's going to see 25 touches. I have interest in him. He's coming in at much lower ownership than all these other running backs. Tony Pollard, he's priced exactly like Charbonnet. I mean, he's like you were talking about earlier. If you're going to be fading Charbonnet, Pollard put up some pretty respectable fantasy numbers so far against good defenses. They played against the Bears. They played against the Jets. Like I do like Pollard in this game also. The defenses, yeah, you can definitely go to them. Good luck to anybody that's going to play Willie Levis here and his receivers. I'm not going to be doing it, but if it's going to make you. Who is it you're talking about? Made him $80,000 last year.
Yeah, Juice.
Another shot at it again, man. Good luck, but I'm not going there.
Yeah, Juice knows, man. He did come through on it a couple times last year. He loves it, but yeah, real
quick. Free rolling for life on Will Levis. How do you not? He'll always be in the green playing Will Levis. I hope.
Yeah, he can never lose money on it. There was another good one here, Scarface. While we got you on, Tournament Goat, just might as well bring up some of these questions that get brought in. Sure. And it was from OG Cincino. I don't know how to say the name, but says, in a single entry, what's the key to it? So just really talking to you, some single entry strategy, because you're still going against a lot. I know you play some of the higher dollar, smaller field single entries, like the $1,500 stuff like that. And over on FanDuel, maybe some of those, but in general, just some single entry strategy before we go to this next game.
With single entry, I mean, you really just kind of have, you got to get off some of these chalky plays. Like you got to get different. You got to get different. You could play some of the, like we're talking about Akers and Charbonnet, but you really kind of have to construct your lineup in a way where it's just different, because you got one bullet in there. You end up on some of these chalky plays. You're just going to have the same lineups as everybody else. So just get different. I would say get different, get unique. Try to get creative, man. I mean, stack these quarterbacks with the right receivers. I mean, it's a guessing game. You got to kind of figure it out, but just I would say get off some of these chalky plays in single entry.
You just got to move a few spots. I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier. You don't got to go find the diamond in the rough. You got to find some of these guys that can break the slate that others aren't going to have in their lineups to give you a level up. Once you get those in and then sort of find some correlation in general, that's typically the way. I know that's another thing we could spend hours on, but we're not going to. But like everyone after 2 weeks just wants to abandon the strategy that's worked forever in NFL DFS. Week 1 doesn't even count. I literally read my annual note off to you guys on this very show, week 1, telling you about the chalk. It's not a thing that I'm popping this up to say, like, I told you so. It's more of, you just don't factor that in. Week 1 is, and there were still certain correlations in there. Last week, there was still correlations in the lineup. Jones to Malik Neighbors is a stack. It's a skinny stack. Using the Arizona D against the other side when everyone's on those dudes is still a play on how you can win tournaments. So I just think people got to focus in and just give it some time. You got to let that marinate. I will say I'm going to make a deal. I'm not afraid of these deals, and maybe you guys will be. We are 15 likes away. I'm pulling one game up on the stone. It's the Panthers Raiders. If we don't hit the 500 likes by the end of this, even if we hit it, we pull the whole stone. So I'm really putting some pressure on you guys. You got the ability to hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds. It's free, and it keeps these shows rolling. All of our shows are free. The more we grow, the more we show. Hit the like, subscribe. I'm checking right after this game, and if we're not at 500, it's gone. If we are, we keep it rolling. So Scarface, I'm going to stick with you. Panthers, Raiders, definitely some talk here. Bowers looks pretty popular at tight end. This was at the start of the week. People trying to tell me it was going to be Andy Dalton chalk week. Like 0.3 guys, nobody's playing this guy ever. We tried to tell you this on Monday, Tuesday, everything. Go ahead, Scarface. Talk to us about this game.
Yeah, I think the Gardner Minshew stacks are going to be popular. I think people are, they're paying attention to what happened last week. I think Brock Bowers is going to be he's a good play. He's going to be pretty owned. I think Devontae Adams is interesting. He's going to come in at like super low ownership if you kind of want to move off Brock Bowers and use Devontae here. But I like Minshew. I mean, I like his price definitely, especially on DraftKings. And yeah, with Minshew, you definitely want to stack him, kind of like what we saw last week when they went off against Baltimore. Another way to play it is I like Zamir White also. I mean, this is the Panthers. They're a bad defense. It could turn into a running game. They can get down into the inside the 10-yard line, and they're just going to be running it in. I mean, we haven't seen shit out of Zamir White, and I don't think he's that great of a running back. But I mean, this they're at home. It's against a shitty defense. Zamir White is one way just to kind of get leverage if people are going to be playing those Gardner Minshew stacks. On the other side, I mean, we don't know what to expect with Andy Dalton. He had a connection last year with Adam Thielen. Now they got Deontay Johnson in the mix. If I'm sitting here trying to pick between one or the two, Deontay is probably going to be much higher owned than Adam Thielen. But I mean, I like guys with like big play capability. He's the one that I would go to. I think I like him over Adam Thielen.
You like guys with big what?
Big play capability.
Oh, okay. Making sure we're keeping this show in check at this point. We've had a few.
What do you think I said?
few different comments in there. That's all. I'm just making sure. But like I said, magic. As soon as you put the little thread out there, there's bangers, man. 5, 10 plus, just smashing it. So it's all good. We appreciate you guys. Obviously today, celebrating 8,000 subscribers. I already seen a bunch of you subscribe since we hopped on. If you like this content, just do so. Subscribe. Make sure you like it, and we'll keep it rolling. And Title, there's some people in here for sure that can win this membership later on. I'm going to let you pick it later if you want to scroll back and just find it when we get to it. But for right now, take us through your thoughts on this Panthers-Raiders game.
Panthers-Raiders, Bryce Young. I mean, you got to feel for he played awful. The line sucks. Their whole team sucks. I think he handled the media, though, really well this week, which means nothing in DFS. But it made me cheer for him a little more because couldn't been off to a worse start. But Deontay, Thielen, really the only two Panthers, if you want to play him. Deontay's getting some ownership, 4.9K, similar to like Godwin, Mike Evans, where the wide receiver 2, 1A, 1B, whatever, is a fourth of the ownership as the other guy. These guys are priced in the same range. Mike Evans is more than Godwin. But if you want to get a little different, you think your lineup's really chalky, a simple pivot right there. Raiders side, yeah, I mean, Antonio Pierce, where's the comment? Right here. I'm buying into this. Like, I buy into some of the coach speak, and this one seemed legit. And they're 6-point favorites at home. Panthers are probably going to struggle again. Like, this feels like if there was a Zamir White game, he was pretty highly touted in preseason. He's absolutely grown-ass man, ripped. He has 100-plus yards on the ground, 2+ touchdowns in his bag, I think, this week at a price in between Akers and in between Charbonnet. I mean, no one's playing him. 6% owned. I'm going to play some Zamir White in tournaments and hoping he does get the bonus and falls in twice. I don't mind Devontae Adams one bit. Someone said him. Sure, I'll never complain about Adams. I like Nico a little more. I like Jets for higher, so I'm not sure how much I'll get there. Brock Bowers is definitely a good play too. The Devontae does leverage off. The more you talk about it, leverages off some Brock Bowers ownership. 8 targets and 9 targets has looked really good. So I'm in there at tight end. But I don't know how much Minshew I really want to play. Like, dude's such a statue. It's easy to play Devontae Bowers. But is Minshew really, I guess, Danny Dimes?
If he gets there, could he drag him along? And it's not always the case. Even in the Aaron Rodgers days, it wasn't always dragging Rodgers along. There was those games where it was just 8 for 110 and 1 for Adams. And you just need Adams. He does his job. Yeah,
for sure. The price, for sure. Like maybe 16 is enough at QB this week because it makes you spend up at all the receivers. 16 at a 5,300 because it's
just the price.
Yeah, it definitely is just the price. Yeah, I don't know. I'm indifferent with it. I'll let you talk about that. I like Zamir White though. I'm using him as the pivot. I do like that more than the passing game. Brock Bowers looks good at that tight end position. Yeah, what are you doing, Minshew, Tambo? Is he Danny Dimes? You liked him last week, and you were right.
Yeah, I'm going to roll him out there. And shout out to my guy, Warren. I got a nice face for radio, buddy. So if you want to hit me up, up on the radio, man, hit us up, info@shipitnation.com. Definitely love that. A couple other good comments in here. Taco Todd says, those who haven't subscribed, my subscription guy, he's been crushing it ever since joining lately, just using all the tools on the site. That's what we love to see. And then this is one that I put in the tidbits this week, and I know Title was just talking about it. I've struggled with it too, but I think I got to put him in there with some Bowers, and if that's the case, then I need to put Minshew. It really does allow you to sort of chew into, if you will, the ownership of Brock Bowers and a Deontay Johnson on the other side. Can you just play that mini stack? Yes. But another interesting one I got in this game is actually my guy. I always like to play him. He won me $100K last year, Chuba Hubbard. This is like Dalton check down city, man. You go Minshew, Adams, Bowers, Hubbard. You got no ownership. You got no ownership here. Look, no ownership, no ownership, no ownership. And then,
pivot off Akers.
You know, Bowers is top guy on the slate. Yeah, he is. But I'm putting him in with how many? Again, people are going to have him. If he gets you 2 touchdowns, Minshew lineups are passing you. That's where it's the opposite of the spot earlier when a guy's 0.4% owned. Probably doesn't even matter if you get him right. If Bowers really gets right today and has a good game, not gets right because he's been playing well, is right today and has a big game, Minshew's probably attached. If it's through touchdowns, if it's just through the targets that he's been getting, then maybe not. But I'm saying that's how I'm building it. And you're going to pass a ton of those lineups because people are just sitting there with Bowers saying, well, I got him right, but I should have went to Minshew, so on and so forth. So don't hate that. I like the Panthers D as well going up against the Raiders in some lineups. I like the Raiders D with the Zamir White. So I'm targeting this game probably more than I should, but it's price oriented. And it's not really like super overstacks or something like that. I'm not expecting a shootout. I'm looking for ways to use plays within the game that might be different to separate my lineups and find a leg up that way. Scarface, anything else you want to add with Panthers Raiders?
No, Zamir White, definitely my favorite play in this game.
One thing to add, it's the start of the afternoon slate. You see all that ownership, really low owned. If your lineups are busting and you need a pivot, Tambo likes this game. We just talked about multiple options. There's chalkier games we'll get to. This could be one of them.
Love the call, too. Scarface, maybe you just chat a little bit on that, too. I just appreciate having you on the show. Obviously, getting a different view, different angle. Just love sort of picking your brain. I think the people will appreciate it as well. The late swap, super undervalued when it comes to DFS, even when people know they should. The funniest part, I threw it in the Discord this morning, people will have like 5 lineups, and they still, it's easier to manage late swap the less lineups you have. For me, I'm looking for the ones that matter most, working backwards so that if I don't hit them all, I at least hit the ones that really matter. There's going to be some heavy late swap conversation comes up when we get to the San Francisco game, but just thoughts on late swap as a whole and this afternoon having 5 games.
Yeah, I take a look at late swap all the time. I mean, I use it especially when I feel like my lineups are dead. If you feel like your lineups are dead and you got these chalky plays that are coming up in like the afternoon games, yeah, just move off them. Even if they go off, they're not going to do shit for you. And if you got a lineup that's probably you think it's in contention to maybe win a tournament, kind of take a look at the guys that are above you. Take a look at the guys behind you. You can kind of project who these guys have in their lineups. And then you feel like, okay, if I got somebody that's chalky, can I use him? Is it going to get me to the top? I mean, Hoop talked about it in week 1 when he almost hit the milli on FanDuel. He had Cooper Kupp. He knew all these guys above him had Cooper Kupp. There's nobody really to move to. Screw it. I'm going to leave him in there. Let's see how far up I move on the leaderboard. If you think you could kind of hop these guys above you and move off some of these chalk plays, yeah, definitely do it.
And if you think you're behind, like if you know that you're up there, but it's like there's 3 guys in front of you that have $6,200 left in the flex, and you know they all got Jordan Mason, it's like the couple in front of you are swapping to Ayuk, and so you're 4th or 5th in line. If you really want a chance to pass them, you'll have to go somewhere different. Maybe you got to leave money on the table and play a second tight end in the guy we just talked about, Brock Bowers, or whatever it might be in your flex. You do have to get different in that spot, or to Scarface's point, you can literally just let it ride and say, you know what, this is a life-changing score for me. Whether I win the 100K, the 50K, the 30K, the 20K, it's a good structure, let's say. I'm going to ride this thing out and take as much money as I can get. Other people play it for the win. So it's all how you're playing your game. We talk about mindset and all that, but like Langley says, late swap can be a cheat code if you know how to use it. One last thing before we go to this next game, because there's 4 more afternoon games and they're all good. It's a big day. We're celebrating 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. We appreciate you. Title is already picking out a winner for the $300 football only. It's an annual package with Ship-to-Myers. So the full meal deal that locks in, you're good to go. If I know we hit 500, then everybody stops hitting the like button. If we hit 750 today, we'll give away a second membership, and my guy Scarface will pick one out of the chat as well. So keep the like button rolling. Almost 900 watching. I know it's a lot to ask, but that's why we're giving away a Big Dog membership. So let's go to this next game title. Let's go to Dolphins, Seahawks, and Skylar Thompson at the helm for the Dolphins side. Little bit of love, a lot of love for Charbonnet and some other stuff. But this game, we got it on here right now as a sneaky game. This could be a spot that you get after. Nobody playing Tyreek Hill. Go ahead.
I'm not one of them either. And yeah, it sounds really weird when you say it like that. No one's playing Tyreek Hill. And yeah, I'm never going to chirp you for doing it. I just know if I'm spending up there, I'm going to get to Jets probably. That's my guy today. I love the Nicos, but it's interesting because it does leverage some Devon A-Chain ownership. And there's really nothing like after that 3.6% is the highest owned. I mean, I'm not playing Dolphins outside of a chain though. Skylar Thompson on this 12-game slate. I'm not messing with it. Seahawks side is the more interesting talking point because you look at the Charbonnet ownership, 22%. He got all the work last week, all the work without Kenneth Walker. In a better spot this week at home, 4.5-point favorites. There's nothing really bad to say about him. But if you want to leverage off some Charbonnet chalk, very easy. Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, JSN. You can throw Lockett in there too, but yeah, the JSN has definitely taken over Lockett for number 2. With all that being said, you can also throw Charbonnet in your Geno stuff because he is a very good pass catching back. He has 4 or 5 dump offs in his range of outcomes. He can catch a touchdown, etc. So if you want to onslaught this, and I don't mind running it back with the chain because I think Skylar's going to dump the ball off to a chain a lot, and McDaniel's going to script a lot of the chain plays, get him the ball 25 times today. And if that's the case with his upside, he's the run back for me. And again, that's not a hot take as you see with ownership. It's what I'm doing though. The 1,400 off of Tyreek goes a long, long way. And Seahawks, it's really clear. I think Geno's a great player with DK, JSN. Can throw Lockett to get different, but do not be afraid to throw Charbonnet. And just all 3 of those guys, or 4 if you're including Geno, with the chain on the other side. That's how you really overstack this one.
Yeah, I think JSN's going to get a little bit of late steam, and that's okay because he's already at a lower number to start with, but it's just definitely a spot I see people moving to and getting more excited about. I had a tidbit on him, obviously all the slot work. This should be an even better spot for him. They've been working him in like the real deal, so I think he makes sense. And then Scarface, I'll let you talk about it first, but one thing I'll note is like Title mentioned, I actually won my FFWC seat 2 years ago with a Geno, Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf lineup, and it can be the same here with Charbonnet. I think that's kind of the setup that you can do. A-Chan on the other side, getting the checkdowns, that made the tidbits. Skylar Thompson checks it down a lot more. So dumps it down to these guys could definitely be a thing. So there's other guys that you can use there too. Jonnu Smith is one as well. But Scarface, I'll let you talk about this game. Dolphins, Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on all the Seattle stuff, the Charbonnet, the Geno stacks. I mean, you guys nailed it on the way to play them. I just want to say, like with Miami, like Miami is not just going to go away because Skylar Thompson's at quarterback now. I mean, they've had a week and a half. I think Tua went down on it was a Thursday night game. So they've had a week and a half to kind of get things going. I mean, how bad can this guy be? I mean, he's got the keys to one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. Like McDaniels is, he's a crafty coach. Like they're going to figure out a way to get the ball to Tyreek. They're going to figure out a way to get the ball to Waddle. These guys are not just going to go away. Is this the week to go after him on the road in Seattle? I mean, maybe not, but I don't think that we're going to see like a Skylar Thompson shit show. Like he's got weapons like A-Chain, of course. I love A-Chain regardless in this game, but I mean, I want it so bad to make a hero call and go with the Skylar Thompson and Tyreek Hill. Like if you're playing the Millie Maker, yeah, Tyreek Hill. I mean, he could bust the slate anytime. Like, how hard is it to just dump it off to him and have him like bust one for 80 yards to the house? We've seen it all the time with him. Yeah, am I going to be playing Tyreek on my main lineups? Like, absolutely not. In those like large field tournaments, hell yeah, I'm going to have some Tyreek. Like a slate breaker like that, of course I'm going to play him.
So that's definitely a Robbie hero call, Jack High playing Skylar Thompson right there, Scarface. Good luck.
Listen, this is what I'm going to say. So for members only, but shout out to our guy, BG Littleneck. He posted in there earlier a big-ass slate plan that I'm donating 10% of anything I win in this tournament. I put one lineup in the 333 today with $250K up top. So up to $25,000 giveaway. And I rolled out Skylar with A-Chan, Tyreek, and ran it back with JSN. I won't give the rest of it away, but that's the lineup. So if the members want to cheer for something, that's in there. If it ships 250, I want it to pay off the most. If Tyreek,
you still got 2 hours of change.
No, I don't need to pay people. This is a bonus lineup for the people. It's the only Skylar lineup I can promise you that I've got in that one. So you'll know if it's at the top and it's hitting, but I want it to pay off for the most money. If it does, I'm going to play that one. It's going to be a good one. We're going to set it up that way. So I'm not in love with it. Otherwise, it is awesome to see. You can get a guy like Tyreek Hill at 3%. We talked about earlier. Can you find a slate breaker? Definitely. Yeah, let's fucking go. That's the one. I'll even drop an F-bomb for my guy. I'm excited. Have that kind of fun. That's what I'm all about. I love that shit. So we'll try it out. But I like Achane. I like the mini stack with him and JSN. JSN in the slot, just getting the checkdowns. Achane getting the checkdowns from Skylar Thompson. Let's go that way. I'm definitely in on the Geno side of things. I loved the take that Title had earlier with playing him with Charbonnet where most won't. So I think that's kind of another setup. And then if you want to full leverage it, you can just go like Geno, Metcalf, JSN, run it back with Tyreek, Jonnu Smith, or Achane. I also think the Seahawks D, Skylar Thompson, I don't know if they're going to try and protect it as much. You know what I mean? Like for these other, when you get like a third string in or something, they really switch their game plan. I think Scarface, you just talked about this. They may not do that. They've had time to prepare. They know what they're doing. They're going to try it. The problem is if it doesn't work. The other thing is the Seahawks have almost a 25-point implied team total, 23.3. Like they could definitely put the points up where then the Dolphins do have to start chucking it, or you could get Achane tips it up and that's a pick six, or anything can happen in these spots. So I definitely think this is a little bit more interesting. So I think there's some stuff to do within this game. We have it targeted as a sneaky game for that reason, and I'm going to try and pay it off to the fullest for the members. Let's go to the next game. Scarface, I'm going to go back to you here. Definitely a game people are targeting. This is the Lions at the Cardinals, and big total on this one. Big team totals. Ownership, not as much as you'd think. Let's talk about this one, Scarface. What do you got?
Yeah, with the ownership thing, I mean, this game has the highest total on the slate. Yeah, it looks like it could be kind of like a track meet, with, two good offenses in a dome. I mean, when you start kind of breaking it down, though, for DFS, like, there isn't much that I liked here. Like, even in a high-scoring game, like the Lions, they're spreading the ball around. There's guys, they're pretty expensive. Guys like Amon-Ra, he's 8,200. Do I like Amon-Ra? Of course I do. I think there's better spots at 8,200 on the slate. Laporta, 6K. I mean, have we seen it from Laporta? Do you want to pay that 6K price tag for him? The running backs, Gibbs and Monty, like there's just so many better running backs on the slate and better spots. Like, do you want to sit here and try to guess which one of these guys is going to get the rock? I mean, they could easily put up a big score and just spread the ball around here, and you're probably just not going to need any of them. I mean, you can definitely go to any one of these guys. They can have a big game. I don't think I'm going to be going to anybody on the Lions here. The side I'm more interested in is on the Arizona side. I think, Kyler, I love Kyler with his upside because he can get there running the ball. If I'm going to pair him, I think McBride is the one I want to be pairing him with here. He's kind of working that, if he's working the slot role, kind of like that. We've seen the Lions get torn up in the slot this year. He's the guy I kind of want. Marvin Harrison Jr., like we saw what he did last week. His price did go up. You can obviously definitely go to him. I prefer McBride over him just because of the matchup.
Yeah, I like the McBride side too. I was just going to say that actually, but the one thing I'll note right out of the gates is the Gibbs stuff. Like, not much ownership at all. I think even on FanDuel at 79, because over on FanDuel there's some prices that are a little bit higher too of guys where you're like, do I really want to pay that versus on DraftKings full PPR? I know the bonuses exist now and all that, but just at least an interesting spot. But look at the ceiling, right? We've got him as a high upside play. When you're talking about can you get guys to score 25 to 30 plus, I think that's kind of the setup here, right? So, Title, I'll go to you on this one, but marked the way it is for a reason. Certainly a target game for us. The stack rankings are popping. Like, everything looks good on this game, yet not everybody wants to get there. And should note, Greg Dortch, good to go as of this morning, so he'll be in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The highest total, close game. People like playing Kyler. There's weapons on the Lions side at ownership. My favorite play is definitely J-Mo. 5.8K, and we're only showing 5.5%. 9 targets, 11 targets. Man, he's back. He is back. He's old Bama days. I'm in on J-Mo. I'll give a little tidbit for the people. Maybe I can't use the word tidbit. Tambo's got that.
Tidbits.
Well, it's Title, but it's Hoop. So Hoop's not on the show. I was out with him late last night. All he could keep saying when people were asking him, Laporta overs are free money. He likes Sam Laporta, and I kept trying to talk him out of it. I'm like, Hoop, he looks slow, dusty. You really playing this dude? He talked coach speak. Ben Johnson, the OC, wants to get Laporta more involved. 3%. Hoopster will be at the game, but if you want a little Hoop tidbit, I guess. Yeah, he likes himself a little Sam Laporta. Me, just go to the other side. Like, McBride's going to get ownership. So you want to look at it that way. And if you like Kyler, there's so many ways to stack it. That ownership of Laporta, that price, how do you hate someone at 3%? So yeah, that's the hoop. I like J-Mo though for sure this week.
I'll tell you why. It's very simple. It's because I don't know if it would ever be a tidbit. It's coming from Hoops. So this is Hoops Homers. He's a
there you go.
Giants fan telling you that this guy's going to be the guy. I don't know if we can quite qualify that as a business decision. It's his main boys and his main team, but hopefully Laporta gets the job done for him if he's on him there. But lots of different ways that you can stack this game up. I mean, just looking at the Kyler side, he still has a ton of upside. I think people feel like it's chasing because of what happened last week. But again, it's almost like the Alvin Kamara situation. Am I expecting the same? Am I expecting 2 first-quarter touchdowns from Marvin Harrison Jr.? No. But can you play him with Kyler and then get a guy like Dorchin and run it back with one of J-Mo, Gibbs, Laporta? There's just, again, another game where you got all this stuff, but nobody getting to it. And the next game is no different. You see it on the screen there. We're going to get to it next with Ravens Cowboys. But Scarface, anything else you want to add on this one or anything else you got to bring to the table for the Lions Cardinals?
No, I mean, obviously it's the highest total on the slate. So you can definitely have pieces of this game and they definitely help, they could pay off for you. It just, I don't think you need to completely stack this game, but I think you just kind of pick your spots here.
You playing golf, Tambo? That price is with 0 rushing upside's a little tough, but the weapons are, it's like the Rodgers. I know it's not a showdown slate, but he has so many guys and like Rodgers got 21 throwing it to different people. Can Goff get you a 22 and be on the winner?
I'm going $400 more for Kyler. Just deal with it. Like, honestly, even if you want to do it that way, I'm still way more interested in that side of things. And again, I just don't know if it's enough. 6,900 still feels very fair to me, where most will say he's chasing, but it's not like the ownership's there. He's showing in at 8%, 9%. Quarterbacks are always spread out. So to me, it's fine. I just want to see sort of how my builds shake out. But right now, I'm definitely on the Arizona side heavy with the run backs from the Detroit side. Secondary stack on FanDuel, like I mentioned earlier, Gibbs and McBride. I like that little stack setup as well. Let's move on. Let's go to the Ravens, Cowboys, and Scarface. I'll stick with you. Another game, big totals, big spot in the afternoon. We got it targeted. Like, no, does anyone even cross 10%? Maybe Jake Ferguson. I know some people are liking Jake Ferguson, but still, he could be kept under 10 as well. What's your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I love targeting this game. Both of these teams coming off pretty upsetting losses last week. I mean, the Ravens, they're in danger of going 0-3 here. Like, both defenses haven't looked good. I think we see some offense in this game. I think the Ravens side, I really like Derrick Henry over here. Like, their season's on the line right here. There's no reason to not just run the hell out of him over here. I think he's going to come in at like pretty low ownership. I like his price on both sides. Like, I think for the Ravens, if they're going to try to win this game, it's got to be with Derrick Henry running. I know Lamar, he can get there too, but Derrick Henry is the one that I like here for sure. On the Dallas side, they can't run the ball. It's going to be Dak in the passing attack. We used him last week. He kind of let us down a little bit. CD kind of let us down a little bit, but they're the only way they're going to be moving the ball is through the passing attack. The Ravens haven't looked like they've been able to stop any of these receivers. Last week, we saw Devontae go for 9 for 111. The week before that, we saw Rashee Rice go for 7 for 103. I mean, I love the Dak stacks over here. I love Dak. I definitely like CD. With Dak, I usually like to double stack Dak. So pick CD. Ferguson's coming back. I kind of like him. You could even go Cooks or Jalen Tolbert for cheaper. So yeah, I like stacking this game. I like targeting it.
Get back to the Dak stack. Love to hear it. That's the one we were talking about it last week. Might have just been a week early. That happens. I certainly think this game is pretty interesting, especially over on FanDuel, the way the pricing is. Dak stacks really can get in there pretty easily. And when you have that 4K running back with Akers over there, you can get to CD Lamb. You can put in Jake Ferguson. I kind of like Mark Andrews, though, this week too, title. Like 4,800 on DraftKings. Really fair price. And he's underneath Bowers and the guys up at the top with Laporta and McBride, and he's above the cheaper guys that people are dropping down to. So I'm not sure if his ownership will get boosted up any from the 5.8 we're reflecting, but I at least think he makes some sense. And with Lamar, Andrews, and somebody from the Dallas side, or just going Dak, CD Lamb, and pick one of Cooks, Tolbert, whatever, and run it back with Mark Andrews. What's your thoughts on this Ravens-Cowboys game?
I like that Andrews call. I mean, just the other side of a kind of just Cardinals. McBride's getting a good amount of ownership. The other tight end is Sam Laporta, who's solid. Jake Ferguson's getting some ownership for the price coming back. Go to the other side in that same price. So I don't even mind Likely either. Like, I think
what about Likely? Like,
yeah, I'd play max one for sure. I don't want to play both of them, but very much in play. They run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I think, but I like this game more for skinny stacks. Again, I'm totally good with Dak. I'm totally good with Lamar. If you play Dak, it's definitely C-Dangs, and then pick Cooks, Tolbert, CeeDee Lamb. I shouldn't be using my slang. Look, Lamar with Zay Flowers, Andrews likely, etc. But the skinny, Derrick Henry at almost no ownership, like Scarface is saying. That's one of those running backs like Josh Jacobs. Can anyone not see Derrick Henry go for 140 on the ground and 2 touchdowns? I can see that. Cowboys just absolutely got gashed last week. Other side would be CeeDee Lamb. Ravens get up. CeeDee, it is pretty expensive, but I like that. You can go Andrews, CeeDee Lamb. Like there's so many ins and outs. Zay Flowers right there. Lamar's number 1. I think this game's solid for skinny stacks. My favorite for sure. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, I think, is in a nuke spot. Another reason I'm not really going Tyreek when I spend up. It's going to be just Lamb, just Jefferson. There is enough cheap options on the slate. But yeah, those tight ends are interesting. Ferguson's too cheap, assuming his role is anything close to what he had pre-injury. And Andrews likely. It's 0-2 Ravens, Tambo. I mean, is Lamar going to come out and just 30-piece and single-handedly? Like, are you playing him at 75? It's so expensive on this slate, but he has that upside.
Yeah, and also people hate on this price on Zay Flowers, but look at his numbers just through 2 weeks. And even last season, he was fine. Just again, they're never going to give it credit because it's coming from Lamar. It's on a Ravens, a run-first defensive type team. I get all that, but Zay has actually been getting the work too, and he's right there. Just no way he can have ownership, and so that's fine. And then on the other side, I think even Tolbert and Cooks fit in. So if you go, like I said, Dak, Lamb, and then pick one of Cooks, Tolbert, Ferguson, and the run backs, Flowers or Andrews, I'm not big on likely. I think he's great, and he is more athletic, like the chat said and all that. I'm going to live and die on the hill, and I'm going to stick with my guy Andrews and just hope that he gets back in, picks up a couple touchdowns. That's how I would look at it. Like him more on DraftKings at that price point where he's underneath Bowers, like I said, and above those cheaper guys, but definitely going to be on both sides of this game. I think it's sneaky. Both teams need to show something and get it done. So this is the spot. If it's a slog game, those lineups just go to dead because I'm gonna focus more on stacking them up than I am just the skinny stacks you were talking about, and play for this game actually being one of the big games that you need to have versus just getting bits and pieces here and there. Not as high on Henry, but could absolutely see it. I could totally see what you were talking about there. He's a guy that they can make happen. They just paid Justice Hill. Somebody had a tidbit on that saying they want to get the money in before they have to start going to him every single game and getting him mixed in a bunch. Our guy Hebrew, definitely in on Flowers this week. I saw that too. Going to ride the Cheetah Heater. He's the guy that's going to be on the heater this week. So yeah, I like this spot here. I think it's definitely interesting to go to that game. Another one here, Title, I'll stick with you. 49ers at the Rams. We talked earlier about it. Target spot for sure, but there's definitely some ownership coming with it. I think Mason and Ayuk even end up as a combo pack together on quite a few lineups. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. I mean, they definitely will. Like, you see all the ownership, 33-28 for Mason Ayuk. No one else in this game is over 10%. So it's like, okay, if Ayuk's going to get Juwan Jennings, we have at 12%, and which makes sense. I mean, they're so beat up. No Kittle, no CMC, no Debo. Like, man, it's crazy in San Fran. But the Rams D is awful. Jordan Mason, the thing with Jordan Mason is just, man, 6,200. Like, he's going to get 25 touches in one of the best offenses and one of the best schemes with one of the best O-linemen against one of the worst defenses in a dome. It's like, if it's 33%, like, I just want to be way over that, I think. Like, I just don't – it's hard for me to see many cases where Jordan Mason fails today. So it's chalk I'm eating. The Purdy stuff is really interesting. But the problem is if you go Purdy, there's only 3 guys that I'm pairing him with, Ayuk, Jennings, or Eric Saubert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got Tambo excited. Saubert.
$2,500, just do anything or do nothing and just don't play it with an Akers lineup where they both die and just, let this guy be the guy that dies instead. You have to play a tight end. That can get you 3 good running backs instead of worrying about if Akers is the dude. The props on Jordan Mason, why don't you pull those up for a second? I think it's like almost 100 yards just on the ground. It's like minus 160 to score a touchdown, yet people are looking for ways to move off him. It's like, again, are they playing him? Yes, 33, but what's keeping him in check from being 60 or something on this slate? He didn't even get a price bump. How is he still $6,200?
That price is insane on DraftKings. Like, how do they not raise his price? FanDuel, at least they raised them up to $8,300.
Right, yeah.
It's still too cheap. I mean, like, put him as C-Mac and discount him a little bit. Like, C-Mac was 10.5. Yeah, he's 94.5 rushing prop, minus 180 to score. That's insanity.
It's literally insane. So again, not going to fall in everywhere, but I do think there's, some merit to putting some of these guys together. I do like the Purdy stuff, but I still think Mason can fall into that as well. That's really the other thing. Title, I'm going to go to Scarface to round it out. We only cover the main slate on DraftKings, so we're going to stop at this game. We are about 150 likes away from the second giveaway, but Title, if you want to go back and find it, don't spoil it yet. We'll let Scarface talk through it. We'll close it off, and then we'll announce the winner. But if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time to do so. If you haven't hit the like yet, now's the time to do so. Scarface, give us your takes on this one. We just talked through Mason and some of it, but overview on this game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the Niners side. Love Ayuk. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to get away from Ayuk in any of my lineups. There's no way he's just not going to eat in this game. I like Purdy too, man. I don't mind the Purdy, Mason, Ayuk stack right there. Like, they can all get there. And on DraftKings, throw in Eric Saubert too. Like, min price. Like, what does he really need? You go like, I'm not saying the full stack it, but like a Purdy, Mason, Ayuk, and Eric Saubert. Like, they can all get there. The Rams, I mean, it kind of comes down to, would you want to run it back? And there's nobody really on the Rams out really want to run it back. These receivers that we're talking about, like Demarcus Robinson and Whittington, and like, it's like you're going to just sit here and try to guess like who's going to get it. I mean, it could be just Kyron Williams. They could just be running Kyron Williams the whole game. As far as like the receivers, I don't want to sit there and try to guess. I think Colby Parkinson's my favorite. Like, he's in arguably a better spot than he was last week. Last week, I saw him at 30% ownership. This week is going to be half of that. I think he's the one that I like the most on the Rams. But I definitely like the Purdy stacks. I'm on it. I like it.
All right, I'm going to go back here just to one other thing quick.
I think Parkinson, I'll mention that quick. I think Parkinson at a tight end position that's really weak as well is, I mean, when everyone's depleted, like, he had some preseason talk. He came over. They were happy with him. Now when Cooper Kupp and what's his nuts, Puka are gone, you only got so many options. So I think you rely on your tight end a little bit.
Puka Nuts Kua. What's his nuts over there? Okay, so there's a new nickname for our guy. But I will say, everybody loved Parkinson last week too. What I was going to point out was, I guess I didn't get this one into the tidbits. Last week I threw the Camaro one into the Discord. I was going to pop this one in this morning, but feeling in a good mood, throw it on the show here. Someone had it up. It's like, how many games was it? I think it was like, honestly, 56 games or something for Jawan Jennings. And this guy has barely ever broke any points. And so I'm still going to try and make it work a little, but this ownership has crept up on him. That's what I was saying earlier about this guy at tight end at 2,500. If I want to double stack it and make room, just bury the money at the onesie position. There hasn't really been any tight ends today we are thrilled about. We're making cases for them. We're saying maybe this. We're talking hoops homers. We're talking Mark Andrews versus Likely. We're talking how Bowers is the best in the world, but we also know he's the chalkiest on the slate. You haven't made a crazy case yet to me where this tight end is just must have. And so if you are burying it, even if he only gets you 6 points, but now that gets you up from Akers 12 points to a Charbonnet 25 or something that you really need to have, those sort of situations, that's where I'm looking at it. So that's where Purdy, Ayuk, and him, or Purdy, Mason, Ayuk, Purdy, Mason, him, like anything you want to do with this $2,500 tight end, I think is fine. And I think Scarface said it best. I made this in the slate plan on the site. Literally one of the first sort of caveats that I put is, this is where people play roulette. Oh, I got to get it's going to be someone on the Rams. Let me do 10% of my lineups on Kyron Williams, 10% on Robinson, 10% on Whittington. I saw a stat, 10% on Johnson. Oh, but you're forgetting about Atwell. All your lineups are dying. Every lineup you're making, because only probably one of them or two of them even comes through. All those other ones are going down the drain, and it just becomes a big problem for your overall portfolio. So you don't have to run it back, right? You can just run it one-sided and let it roll from there. And so I think that's at least somewhat interesting. I also think no one's talking about the 49ers D, and they're at that $3,500 price point, sort of below the Browns, above some of those others we talked about. What if it's nobody on the Rams again? It was literally the defense versus the Rams last week that was on the $20 Millie Maker. Could definitely be a thing here again. So
yeah, the offensive line, they're not protecting Stafford. Like, there's going to be sacks in this game for sure.
It makes me think that if I was picking someone from the side, the one I'd be most interested in is if Whittington comes true. But again, he could also be a trap because it could end up just being Kyron Williams. And then the problem with that is it might actually not be enough. And what I mean by that is, because there's pressure coming, he gets it out quick. That doesn't help our San Francisco D take, but I'm talking about if Kyron Williams is getting the checkdowns. They just want to run him more to kill the clock and get through this game where they don't want to face on with this 49ers team and just sort of kill it. It still may not be enough because he's 7,100. He's in the same price range as all the best running back plays. So does it really help you that much? I think if you want to set it up, you get like him and Ayuk in a secondary stack and try and do something with it. But if it doesn't get there, don't be surprised. So I think that's definitely something there. Scarface, any other final thoughts on the slate that you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered it all, man. I mean, the slate overall or just this game?
No, just this game. Just the slate as a whole. We're good. We got through all of it. I think that's going to be it for today. So anything else before title gets
on the FanDuel?
No, we don't give away the secret sauce for the FanDuel game. That's nighttime only, right? That's after dark, Giraffe Dark with our guy BG Littleneck. He'll be in there with Giraffe Dark, getting that one and breaking it all down. But just anything else now that we've covered it all that you want to talk about, or anything else you can give?
Just go with who you like, man. Like we talked about earlier in the show, the quarterback position is going to be so spread out. Just there's so many ways to get. We talked about all these chalk plays. We talked about these optimal plays. Play them and then kind of just play your guys around them. Like get creative. This is a slate for the taking for sure.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways you can go about it and get different on this one. And everything that you heard us say today, whether it was Justin Jefferson or, even CeeDee Lamb, some of the big names, they're all being kept in check. The quarterbacks are more spread out than we've seen yet this season because, someone asked earlier, I missed that question in chat. I think the answer was it's way too many, but someone asked, should I play 13 quarterbacks in the early only? No, in my opinion, because you want to tighten it up some and get yourself chances to the top. But two, I get where you're coming from because that's the type of slate that it is. So it's like you said, the slate is out there. It's for the taking. We've got all the content up over at ShipItNation.com. Appreciate everybody watching and breaking it all down. Title, we got the one winner, 620 likes. We're going to get to that 750 sooner than later, I think. But everybody come back next week for that. But the big winner for today, who do we got, Title? What's it going to be?
I love this comment. One of the first ones that was in here. Very nice words, was asking questions, even mentioned a little Tambo tidbits. And hey, it's Minshew week. Maybe I do have to bump my exposure a little bit. Maybe. But congrats to the realist. That was very nice of you. Appreciate your support.
Someone said Minshew Millie Mania. It all goes together, the triple M. I mean, you could break that down for sure. Yeah, shout out to our guy Scarface. Congrats to the realist. Reach out, info@shipitnation.com. If you remember off the top, I was actually giving him a free month. So now he just got bumped to the whole annual. That's going to get him in shape. Get him in our gym, if you will, our DFS gym. We got all the weights you can need. We got the trainers. We got all the best equipment. Everything's there. The community is great. Check it out if you guys haven't already. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for helping us hit 8,000 subscribers. The drive for 9K. And then we get to 10 is going to be a massive giveaway, but we'll keep it rolling. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that like button for Title, for our special guest Scarface, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.